Welcome to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe, and I'm joined by Better Call Harry, which is now your legal name, isn't it, Harry?
No, actually, I'm Brendan Keefe's twin today because we both match.
That's right. Well, we're wearing the same outfits, but I was just mentioning that you're known as Harry and I'm known as Unharry.
Well, don't do that to yourself.
Come on, look at the back. You see the back? It's like the photographers are always asking for a reflector. I volunteer. But I digress. We're here today to talk about your investigation of, it's really an odd case because it started as a sewer leak or some sort of septic leak, and it turned into something far stranger.
This may be the craziest story that, at least this year, you know what, maybe like ever that I've ever done. Because yes, it started out with a complaint from a neighbor about the next door neighbor's septic tank overflowing into their yard and the city of Tucker not being able or not doing anything about it, saying it was a civil matter. And then it just cascaded into so much more.
Of course you get upset when everybody tells you they can't do anything about it. It's rough.
John and Stacy Rusnak are tired of hearing city and county officials say the raw sewage flowing from the next door neighbor's broken septic tank is a civil matter.
We've been through code enforcement, we've been through watershed management, the EPA, the EPD, I've been through 911.
We'll spare you the close-ups, but there is a stream of contamination flowing into the Rusnak's yard and down their driveway.
You can't have just raw sewage running at someone's house and not do anything about it.
The home's listed owner is VSP LLC, which shares the same address as Sylvan Homes. Sylvan has properties in 26 cities. In fact, here's the listing for this home on apartments.com. Sylvan describes it as a dream home without breaking the bank, but the home is not available. Heck, we don't even know who lives here.
What was that?
I want you to know this private property.
The man is trying to explain that we can't take his picture without consent, but we can, and we did.
If a photo is taken on private property, it amounts to trespassing.
But I'm not on your property.
I'm at my wit's end, really, because there's nothing we can do, it seems like, and it just seems very unfair.
The situation is more than a mess from the overflowing septic tank. In February, the city of Tucker issued several violations, and a Sylvan Homes representative confirmed we currently have an illegal occupant in the home. But it's not these guys. Neighbors say the man you see here moved in with a new group a couple of months ago. Neighbors believe they are affiliated with a religious group.
We don't sell our souls, sir.
Huh?
We do not sell our souls.
Well, I don't want you to sell your soul. I just want you to come talk to us.
And their new community expands into the backyard.
There's the first tent. I think there's another one over and then 5 more on the other side of the house.
Did it go to court? Do you know yet?
We called Sylvan Homes and a representative confirmed that an eviction is in process. But what about the sewage? Sylvan has been sending plumbers since February, but none of the repairs worked. On Monday, the mess got worse.
It's become more taunting and more menacing.
This is John Rusnak speaking with police after he says the group came over dressed in ski masks and hand-delivered this cease and desist letter threatening to sue.
Harry, it's such an extraordinary story because you never know who's living next to you or whether they're even supposed to be there. But it gets even crazier than that?
It does get crazier than that because we ran the story and then we started getting emails from people who were saying, hey, we know who those guys are. We know who the squatters are. They are affiliated with this group called Carbon Nation. Well, as it turns out, Carbon Nation, its leader was tried for holding one of its members hostage and sexually assaulting her. And then he got convicted for life in prison, and people were wondering where they went. This is where they went. So
wow.
It just kind of cascaded into a part 2.
Every squatter knows, sooner or later, the jig is up. On Friday, DeKalb County marshals and the sheriff's department swarmed this Tucker home. The eviction comes following an Atlanta News First investigation. The squatters moved in 2 months ago. They changed the locks and used a phony lease agreement to turn on the water.
I want you to know this private property.
But who were these guys? We had more questions than answers.
We don't sell our souls, sir.
Huh?
We do not sell our souls.
Well, I don't want you to sell your soul. I just want you to come talk to us.
After we ran the story, viewers immediately identified the two men on the porch. They affiliate themselves with a polygamist group known as Carbon Nation.
Knowledge is power.
Social media posts praise the group's leader, Eligio Bishop, also known as Nature Boy. Earlier this year, a DeKalb County jury convicted Bishop of raping one of his followers, holding her hostage, and posting a revenge porn video online. He was sentenced to life. Take a look at this. One of the guys on the porch is the same guy who almost testified at Bishop's trial. A judge had him removed for repeated outbursts.
You know what? He just lost his right to stay in the courtroom. Deputies, he can be escorted out.
After Bishop's sentencing, a group of people got into this house and made it their home. John and Stacy Rusnak live next door.
I'm at my wit's end, really, because there's nothing we can do, it seems like, and it just seems very unfair.
There's the first tent. I think there's another one over and then 5 more on the other side of the house.
The Rusnaks wanted them out because the house had a broken septic tank and it was constantly overflowing into their yard.
Did it go to court? Do you know yet?
So we went to the city of Tucker, DeKalb County Police, the property's owner, Sylvan Homes, and DeKalb's legal department, who explained why in this case, the new Squatters Reform Act, which speeds up the process, does not apply.
In this instance, the owner has filed an eviction, so it would not invoke any squatter laws or process. It will follow the eviction process in court.
It must have been something we said. Following our investigation, DeKalb County turned off the water and won't turn it back on until the septic tank is fixed. 1 day later, DeKalb evicted the squatters. Everything they had went straight to the curb.
I guess they evicted you. Where y'all gonna go now?
From squatters to wanderers.
Why did you guys think you could stay in that house?
We are being harassed right now, bro.
The group wandered off into the woods, leaving behind their version of the American dream.
Now, Harry, look, I've worked with you now for a couple of years and admired you from afar for longer than that. You're always amazing, especially with, like, you are a former news photographer, I guess a current one too, but your camera these days is your phone. And a lot of stuff you got in those 2 pieces was on your phone, and then others were telephoto from the photographer. But how did you find the guys on the street?
This is why we do these behind the investigations, is to talk about this, because sometimes it's just luck. We got a tip that the eviction was going down, but we had 40 minutes to get there. The photographer got a head start. I was actually home with COVID, and I thought, I can't miss this. And so, headache and all, got in my car. I isolated. I even wore a mask in my own car. And I drove there. I actually got there 10 minutes late after the eviction. Well, the photojournalist got the eviction from the front of the house, but the members of Carbon Nation went out through the back. And I'm driving there 10 minutes late, and as I'm driving there, I'm like, holy cow, that's them. And literally turned the car around, pulled out my cell phone, hit the mic, hit record, and then just decided, well, we're going to go ask them some questions. So just kind of drove up and started talking to them. Obviously, they did not have much to say, but it's amazing how quickly the county reacted once we got involved to getting this eviction process and getting them out. Where did they go? No idea.
Right, and still, what's amazing to me is this all started with a septic problem that was spilling over into the neighbor's yard. The neighbors said, better call Harry. Harry gets involved and finds what lawyers in that case you described called a cult, a religious sect, that was essentially squatting next door without any kind of lease. And they kind of, look, we don't want to accuse them of anything, but they presented a lease that wasn't legit, right?
They did. They actually, so the county shut off the water because of the septic leak. And then that day, within an hour, these individuals went down to watershed management with a forged lease. They presented the lease to the water department, and that's all you have to do. You have to present what looks like a valid lease, a photo ID, and the same watershed employee that turned the water off went back out there and turned it back on so they could have water again. So they were in there for a few more days. They got an extra weekend out of it. We did the interview with the county attorney, and right after that, things started happening. But there was kind of there was another story there. It was how easy it is to go and get the water turned on by just presenting a lease, because DeKalb doesn't call to check.
They don't verify.
They don't verify. It's not their job to verify, which makes it all too easy for squatters to do this again, and we hope they don't. But if they do, Brendan, I'm going to dress just like you and confront them again.
This was totally unintentional, by the way. This isn't the Atlanta News First Investigates male uniform, just so you know.
Well, you never wear a tie, and I always wear a tie, and it's like, it's really hot today. It's like 100 degrees out.
Everyone thinks I'm being avant-garde. It's just that I'm overweight now, and if I wear the tie, it makes my neck bunch up.
Don't do that to yourself.
So, but turkey neck aside, let's talk about, in the first piece, you did photograph, you and your photojournalist, I think that was Dimitri, wasn't it?
Yep, that was Dimitri.
Dimitri Litovsky, one of our top photojournalists from Atlanta News First Investigates. You know, they were saying, hey, you can't photograph us without our permission. We get this, you and I have gotten this now for more than 3 decades from people. Look, we always try to be respectful, but when people say, hey, it's unlawful for you to photograph me, that's a total misunderstanding of the law. So long as you are allowed to be on a piece of property, so you're either on public property or on someone else's property with permission, you can photograph anything you want from that perspective. And in Georgia, there is a law just for if you're doing photography where with a hidden camera, there's laws where there's privacy expectations, but there's no expectation of privacy from a neighbor's yard looking over to yours. You did not need their permission to photograph them, despite what they were saying.
No, think about it. I mean, everybody's got a Ring camera now. I mean, you're taking video from a public place or private property that you were invited to be on, or your own,
or that you control. Yeah,
right. You take video of whatever you want. So I was very careful when we got the video to also show one shot panning down to show the ground and that we were on the other side of the property line. But, you know, I knew that we were within our rights, and I just kept asking questions. And it's funny, the more I talked, the more they said. If they hadn't said anything, who knows?
Well, they could have just turned around and walked inside, and then, that's the answer.
If they hadn't come outside onto the porch to watch our interview with the couple next door who was dealing with all the sewage coming onto their property, we probably wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't even know who these guys are.
No.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? That is really, really fascinating. Most of your stories have a takeaway. Most of your stories at the end, hey, if this happens to you, so what should I do if there's a septic leak onto my yard and it's caused by a home where squatters from a religious sect are holed up with a forged lease?
They kind of did the right thing, but they couldn't get a response. But you got to be the squeaky wheel. You can go if you don't know who the owner is, and in this case they didn't, because the house was vacant at the time. The question to them was, who owns this place? Well, anybody can find out who owns this place, or at least get an idea by going to the tax assessor's office online and pulling up the address, because you can do a search by address, and then it will.
It shows you who owns it, yeah.
It shows
and
who owns it.
Who bought it and when, and for how much.
A little tougher for us, because in this case it was owned by an LLC, but the family had already figured out that it was owned by this property management company that we reached out to, and I think that also helped. I left them several messages. They never responded, and but things started moving fast, because we found out, and we were able to confirm, again, by calling the city clerk or the county clerk, that this was an open case in court and it had just been sitting there for like a month and a half. So, yeah, there was an eviction in process. It wasn't going anywhere.
You know, I was being facetious when I asked if there was a takeaway for such a specific situation, but what's great about Better Call Harry is you actually had one of what you should do, which is excellent. Anything else we need to know about this story or how it came about or something that was behind the scenes?
You know, I just want to add it was his birthday. That the gentleman in the house who we did the interview with, we did this on his birthday. All I have to say is happy belated birthday.
Right. Well, you did get him a present. You got him a resolution to the situation, at least somewhat.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sorry to, I cut you off. It's a bad reporter habit. One last thing. The county will not turn the water back on this property until that septic tank is fixed. So not only did we get the septic tank fixed, which was our original intention, we got the squatters out.
Wow. You know, I could say what kind of story this is, but given that it involves a septic tank, you can imagine the four-letter word plus TY at the end. But you did an excellent job on it. I want to thank you so much, Harry, for all your hard work. And if you have a problem, you better call Harry, because that's what I do. I better call Harry. And then usually when I review his scripts, I say better call legal. But that's another joke. Not true. I absolutely button up every single time. Better call Harry. Harry Sandler, thanks for joining us. I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe with Atlanta News First Investigates. You've been watching or listening to Behind the Investigation, and you can not only watch this on YouTube and Atlanta News First Plus, but you can also get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you and hear you next time.